All right, we are back here on the podcast, catching up on the World of College Basketball. A very impactful weekend for college basketball. The top 16 seed reveal. The top 4 teams play each other, including a huge non-conference game between Duke and Michigan, which I hope we get more of those. Joining me today, our college basketball guy on the podcast, great Troy Mauriello is here. Troy, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. Like you said, what a weekend of college hoops. No shortage of storylines, and of course, yeah, a couple of great games between the top four teams in the AP poll. So yeah, no shortage of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, for sure here. And I think this is the last time we talked here. I think things have really ratcheted up a notch where, like I said last night, okay, we have a tier of teams that I feel good about. Like
Mhm.
now I'm starting to question a couple of them. I think this is a good thing for us.
For sure, yeah. I think that the top three right now of Duke, Arizona, and Michigan, they look like kind of clear Final Four contenders. You want to throw Houston in there, although they've lost a couple in a row now. So the top three seem like are safe bets to at least be one seeds and to go pretty far in March. Obviously, nothing's a given in the NCAA tournament, in a single elimination tournament, but those three teams look damn good. I mean, that Duke Michigan game from Saturday really, could have been a national title game, and I don't think anyone would be upset if 6 weeks from now that is our national title game. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, there's a lot of holes. We've seen teams like Florida who have come on as of late, but have really struggled in the non-conference. We have teams like Purdue who have some big wins, but also have been kind of inconsistent in conference play. Like I mentioned, Houston kind of fallen. UConn taken some rough losses recently, so there are some holes definitely for the teams basically outside of the top three that I mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely here. So let's dive into some things here. So you want to do the games first Saturday or the seed reveal?
Let's do the seed reveal. Happened earlier.
Yeah, so we get the top 16 seed reveal here, which top three are expected. Basically, at that point, Michigan is the one. Duke, Arizona, Duke is the two seed, which is a surprise to me slightly. Arizona the three, and fun fact that according to I think on the selection on the show, they said that no team's ever been the one seed on the selection on the seed reveal show has ever won the tournament. So that's not good juju for
Wow.
Michigan.
Huh. Okay.
Couple of surprises here. Obviously, Iowa State gets the last one seed over Houston. When Houston falls behind UConn there, the committee chair Keith Gill said that the top end wins that UConn has are better than the ones that Houston has.
Mhm.
Yeah, Texas Tech, I think, on the four line, even though they lose JT Toppin for the season
Mhm.
with the ACL. Like, what's
Mhm.
your big takeaways from the seed reveal?
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of off what I mentioned before. Those top three. I think it's a pretty safe bet unless something shocking happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks. That Duke, Arizona, and Michigan will all be number one seeds. Again, Duke playing in the ACC. I know they have some challenging games, Virginia, North Carolina coming up, but would be very surprised to see them lose enough to be off the one line, especially with some of the non-conference wins that they had and the win that they just got. Michigan, same thing. Big Ten is a gauntlet. Big 12 is a gauntlet for Arizona, but I think both of them have Michigan and Arizona have kind of built up their resumes enough that they're going to be one seeds. So the storyline for me is, who's going to get that final number one seed? Iowa State obviously had it, but they've been kind of inconsistent all season long, as compared to those three that I just mentioned. UConn, had the incredible non-conference run, but conference play, the Big East hasn't really afforded them many opportunities for signature wins, and they've kind of lost really their one big chance for a signature win at St. John's. They get St. John's later in the week, but UConn in these last couple of weeks or last couple of months in conference play just really hasn't been able to build that resume like some of these other schools have. And then you talk about Houston again, great non-conference, but has been a little bit shaky, lost back-to-back games. So, that race for that final one seed, does Purdue have something to say about that? Does Florida have something to say about that? If they can, stack up a couple more wins in a row in the SEC, they've been kind of very quietly building up a nice resume after being one of the most, disappointing teams in the country through non-conference play. So that final one seed, who gets it? Outside of the top three, I think is something to watch for sure.
Yeah, those are all great things. I tend to look at it more of a. I listen carefully what the committee chair says of what there separates these teams, and a
Mhm.
couple things to pop to me here are that like who you beat matters, which is obviously
Mhm.
a great point about all the Arizona's quad 1 and 2 wins. Michigan has 19 wins against the top quarters. UConn's
Yeah.
wins are better than Houston's wins. The other one I noticed here is also just the idea of like head-to-head mattering,
Yep.
especially with the Iowa State Houston result
Yeah.
here.
Hmm.
I think if you're on the bubble and your plate's all you head-to-head and lost, now you got to worry a little more.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. We saw like Missouri and Texas last week kind of in that scenario. Yeah. The quads, the quad rankings and everything like that is certainly, been kind of the be all end all for a lot of these teams recently. So if you're a bubble team that is struggling in, quad one, quad two signature games, like someone like Ohio State, that's something, reason to sweat as well if you're on the bubble.
Yeah, that's for sure here. Let's go to these big games on Saturday here. I think obviously got to start with Duke, Michigan here. I love the fact now we're getting these big
Yeah.
non-conference games in February now. I know Shire said he feels that it helps his team get ready for NCAA tournament style preparation because it's a team you don't see all the time. You have to get ready
Hmm.
quickly. I thought the atmosphere was great. I thought the basketball was great. Fun to see these two teams match up, and Duke dominated Michigan in a way that nobody has defensively in a long time.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. To see Michigan, struggling that much on offense was really a testament to how incredible Duke has been playing defensively, which is something that kind of carried them last year as well with that Cooper Flag team. That was kind of an underrated part of that team was how good they were defensively. Yeah, and if Duke is going to win, it's going to be on the defensive side because you kind of know what you're getting with them offensively with Boozer, and how he's able to just dominate in the paint. But him able to still have a pretty good game against really one of the best front courts in college basketball in Michigan with their kind of three-headed monster was pretty impressive as well. But like you said, the environment in that arena was off the charts. I said earlier, if that ends up being, the national title game or a Final Four game, I don't think anyone would complain about it. I think those two teams, again, as I said, along with Arizona, but I think even those two teams are kind of just head and shoulders above everyone else. Like you mentioned, it's so great that we get these games in mid to late February. I wish more conferences would go that route and be playing these type of games. We've seen a couple of them. What was it? Virginia and Ohio State played. I believe Baylor played someone as well. So we've seen some of these non-conference games that maybe weren't as marquee as Michigan and Duke being played later in the season. It's just a nice switch up from Duke. Obviously, in the ACC, they're really only challenged by two or three, maybe four teams out in the ACC. Getting a chance to play a team like Michigan, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks before the NCAA tournament starts, really, really good for them as well. But yeah, let's hope this trend continues.
Yeah, they played Louisville Bear. Well, that was the other game you're thinking of. So
Yep.
I hope that this is a trend now. I think coaches do see the value in this here, especially like if Duke goes deep again in the tournament and Michigan has another deep run here. I think you're going to see more programs try and do this. I've also add here, bring back bracket busters. We should have bracket busters again.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, would love to see that as well. I mean, a lot of these conferences now are going to the are going to shorter conference schedules to allow this, to allow more non-conference games. And if those non-conference games are going to be at this level and not be just bye games, more bye games tacked into November and December, that would be great. But, as we mentioned, I think the last time that I was on with you, Mike, these games in November and December have been great. Teams are really, really challenging themselves with their non-conference schedule. You love to see it in November and December because, for the college hoops junkies like us, it gives us some really incredible games early in the season. But, now getting these games later in the season as well, these matchups that you're not really accustomed to, it's a treat for all involved and it's great for the team. So let's hope that continues.
Yeah, I think I remember if I remember I think ESPN killed bracket buster. They said it wasn't like worth their time to do it, but like I think like if you're in this world right now, like imagine how much a team like Miami of Ohio could really use a bracket buster game right now.
100%. Yeah,
Like if
that
we
that
if,
would
if we got them against St. Louis, like that'd be fun.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Give them a chance to really prove themselves because that would end this debate that I'm sure that we're going to discuss in a second as well about Miami, Ohio. Like they played a marquee game right now at the end of February. We would find out just how good they are, and there would be no debate over is Miami of Ohio worthy of their ranking or worthy of getting an at large. Like there would be no debate about it. So that would be really nice.
Yeah, let's get to the rest of Saturday here, which was a very big day on the college basketball landscape here. Obviously, we have Arizona topple Houston without Koa Pete, which is something
Hmm.
worth watching here in terms of that situation.
Hmm.
You have Iowa State getting crowned of the final one seed after beating Houston, then they get lose by 10 at BYU for the first time. BYU is actually beating somebody
Yeah.
relevant here. Cincinnati goes to Kansas and wins for the biggest blowout for an unranked team against the Jayhawks in Self's tenure.
Yeah.
You have Donovan Den channeling Tyus Edney going coast to coast for UCLA against Illinois. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff inside. What stuck out to you the most?
Yeah, yeah, you hit on a bunch of it there. The BYU win over Iowa State was so huge. Iowa State coming off of a big win. They've had some head scratching losses as well. Iowa State, but they're a fantastic team. But BYU finally getting over the hump and winning a game like that was just so big for them. They lose Richie Saunders for the year. That was obviously huge. They're going to need AJ Devon to just be a superstar down the stretch if they're going to make a big run. But BYU kind of interesting because they've been playing all these very, very competitive games. They've been in almost all of these games. DeBonce's been just a star. Like there's no complaints about how good he's been. But they haven't really been, getting those signature wins. I know they had a couple in the non-conference, knocked off Clemson. They beat Villanova in their first game, but in conference play, it just hasn't really been there for them. So for them to get that win and kind of right the ship a little bit, and see that they can do it without one of their stars. That's going to be impressive. And BYU is a team to watch because when you have a freshman like that who can just go off at any time for 30, 40 points, as a lot of these teams have, but BYU is one of them for sure, that changes things in March. If he can go on a heater of a 3-4 game heater, we could be looking at BYU as an Elite Eight game. I think that's still on the table for them.
Yeah, I think that's one that definitely sticks out to me. The Richie Saunders thing's a big deal. Texas Tech
Yeah.
winning by 28, his first game on top. I guess the
Yeah.
grant is against the interim coach Kansas State now. That's still impressive. And the Houston thing, I don't understand them because they have the talent. They should be winning more of these big games than they do.
Hmm.
And you look at their schedule, their best wins are at home against Texas Tech and at home against BYU. Like they
Hmm.
lost to Tennessee,
Hmm.
in the where the players are in
Yep.
November. They
Hmm.
lost to they beat Arkansas, which is actually probably a good win.
Hmm.
They lose Texas Tech the other way.
Not
They
Texas
they
Tech.
get swept this week here. So
Mhm.
for a team that's looking to be on the one line, they're not doing a good enough job separating themselves.
For sure, yeah, they need a strong finish, and the metrics obviously love Houston as they do every year. And they're a team that has clear not only Final Four but national title aspirations, but yet kind of lacking those. I think we're almost spoiled with Houston, right? Because in years past, it just seems like they stack up these, impressive wins like it's nothing. These top 10 wins like they're nothing. And this year they have been a little bit more shaky in those games against top competition. So yeah, they do need a strong finish here. And I'm sure a good result in the Big 12 tournament could help them as well. The Big 12 gives you plenty of opportunities to get some quality wins. So I'm not panicking about Houston. I still think that they're a team that, like I said, has absolutely Final Four national title aspirations. I think they have a really nice mix of talented freshmen as well as veterans returning who have been there before, who are looking to, right the wrongs of last season with how last season ended. So I'm not writing off Houston, but like you said, they do need to, finish strong here to have a real case at a one seed.
Yeah. Next thing I want to look in here is the very strange Darren Peterson situation with Kansas. And going into the year, he's consensus sort of like the top prospect. He has not been able to stay on the floor, whether it's,
Mhm.
hamstring injury, cramping issues. He's pulling himself from games. He misses the Arizona game that they win. Give the Wildcats their first loss due to flu-like symptoms. And then, he's pulling himself out of a game
Yeah.
on Wednesday, and Self is sort of left holding the bag, saying I don't know, that was weird. I was not expecting that.
Mhm.
It's a very strange situation here, and my hunch would be he's clearly injured in some sense, and
Mhm.
his there might be some sort of plan here where he's gonna be there 1 year. Let's not hurt ourselves too much, but I
Yeah.
want to be out there. It's a very bizarre situation going on over there right now.
Exactly, and yeah, I don't want to rip the kid too much because who knows, I'm sure he is actually hurt, and I don't think that he went to Kansas with the expectation to say I'm just gonna play 20 minutes a night, and if I'm feeling anything I'm not gonna play. Like I don't think that he went into Kansas looking to not take the college experience seriously because we've seen so many of these one and done freshmen. We're seeing it this year with so many of them come in and want to compete for a national title and want to play 30 plus minutes a night. And I believe Peterson's only done it, I think, 6 times in their 26 or 27 games now where he's played 30 plus minutes. I do think that the initial, injury and everything like that was serious, and he has suffered some real injuries. But I think, like you said, that's probably in his head now, where his goals don't line up, I don't think, with the rest of his teammates and with Bill Self and with the Kansas, boosters and their fans. Like all of those guys' goal is to win a national title. Like this is the be all end all. Like, no disrespect to, some of his teammates, but most of those guys, like this is the highest level of basketball that they're going to play for the rest of their lives. They don't have NBA aspirations of being, hopefully a future all-star, future NBA champion like Darren Peterson has. So those goals just aren't on the same page. So, like you said, when he's feeling anything, like I don't think that he's really willing to, risk it and play through an injury because in his mind, like he's going to be on an NBA roster 4 or 5 months from now playing in summer league games. So like, why would he, risk further injury and tanking his draft stock and hurting himself, in that regard and losing some potential money, on the next level? But this story has officially broken contain now. Like, it's the mainstream media has now picked up on this. This was kind of just a college basketball story, I feel like, for the first, 2, 3 months of it. Now it feels like everyone's talking about this, and if so, like I really hope that he's able to just stay on the court the rest of the way and play 30 plus minutes a night for this team. Because if they lose in the Big 12 tournament or the NCAA tournament, and it's a game where he pulls himself out early again, it's gonna be a really, really bad look for him. But Wednesday night, that Oklahoma State game kind of felt like the first time that he kind of maybe, Bill Self was a little bit critical of him. It felt like Self was kind of always on his side throughout this whole thing. That was the first one that I felt like where Bill Self was kind of like, we're used to this. We thought we were getting a full game out of him tonight, but we're used to playing without him because we've had to do it all season long. So that was like the first hint of kind of being critical of Peterson that we've seen from the Kansas head coach. So, we'll see where this kind of develops, but it's not a good look for him. And we'll see, how much more the mainstream media picks up on this than they already have.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this back in December, like you and
Yeah,
I, because like
yeah,
college people were aware of this. It's like
yeah.
thing that I think hurt Peterson here is that you have this video clearly on Wednesday of him making the three,
Hmm.
turn around to Bill Self saying, "I'm done, get me out," and then like he
Hmm.
doesn't play again. Like, and that's the breaking point. Is now there's no NFL distract you. It was not really much going on in the NBA at that point. I don't think it was back from the All Star break quite yet. And then
Yeah.
like that's the big story in town. And like this is an NBA right now where everybody's tanking to try and get it. Something from this class, where it's, him,
Hmm.
Debansa, Cam Boozer, like Darius Acuff,
Yeah.
Caleb Wilson, name your guys. Like,
Hmm.
there's a very deep group of players who are very good this week. So, like seeing that, and like, I know there's like the Stephen A. Smith of the world saying, I wouldn't touch this guy because like he's,
Hmm.
like I putting himself above the team. But like,
Hmm.
it puts the kids in a very tough spot because we've seen how good they can be. They beat Arizona without him.
Yeah.
They play very good without him, but it's very tough to build a team when you have this very good player who you want to put here and say like, okay, this guy could win us a championship,
Yeah.
but like you can't assume he's gonna be available for a full game, or like if he plays, is he gonna pull himself out because he feels cramping, or like does
Hmm.
he like tweak something and says, okay, I want to push it? Like it's a very tough spot because like especially with the lack of transparency, where they like. Self is trying to defend the player because he knows like if I burn this kid, I'm not gonna get future kids like this. So like
Exactly.
it's a very rough spot for them to be in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Bill Self's in a tough spot. That his teammates are in a tough spot. Peterson himself is in a tough spot because I'm sure that, like we said, he's getting advice in his ear that's telling him to do this stuff. I don't think that he's voluntarily pulling himself out of these games. I'm sure that an agent or a family member, I don't know his situation, but is probably telling him, trying to instruct him on what to do. So yeah, it's a distraction all around for a team like you said that has national title aspirations. Like this team, we've seen them beat the best of the best without him. With him when he's, being, just the electric playmaker that he is, this is a team that can win a national title. Absolutely. You just hope that there's no more controversy the rest of the way and that he's able to stay on the floor the rest of the way for them. Because, first of all, you want to see this kid play and you want to see this kid play in March on, the biggest stage of them all. But at the same time, I hope that we don't have to have any more discussions about, Darren Peterson and how much he really cares about college basketball or anything like that.
There's a white hot spotlight on him this week because they
Yeah.
host Houston on Monday night when they are
Yeah.
listening to this, and they go to Arizona on Saturday. So that's a huge week to keep an eye on Darren Peterson.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it's only going to get bigger. Big 12 tournament, March Madness comes along, like it's only going to get bigger, the spotlight on him.
Yeah, let's go to the Big East a little bit for some of our locals here. Obviously, UConn has been in that one seed mix all year. They have some great results here. I do feel like there's something a little off with the Huskies.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the like dead in the water Creighton come in and beat them at Stores on Wednesday, which does not usually happen here. They lost the game earlier this year, I think. Obviously St. John's like
St. John's.
beat them up
Yeah.
pretty badly at the Garden a few weeks back. They had the loss to Arizona, which is understandable here, but
Mhm.
it feels like something is slightly amiss with the Huskies. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. UConn up until a couple of weeks ago had one loss. It was to Arizona, who, was undefeated and number one for quite some time. And UConn was down two starters in that game as well. And they almost won that game against Arizona. So they were, a couple plays away from being undefeated going into February, being one of those unbeaten teams. But they've been playing with fire all throughout Big East play. You wonder because you know that this team is really good. I mean, you've seen their non-conference results. They beat Florida. They beat Illinois. They've beaten some real BYU. They've beaten some really, really talented teams in the non-conference play. So like this team is obviously a Final Four contender. That thinks that they can get back and win another national title. But you just wonder like have they been fully locked in? And I know that's crazy to say for a Dan Hurley coach team, but like have they been fully locked in the Big East in Big East? Like are they kind of just coasting a little bit? Because that game against Creighton, it kind of felt inevitable that they were eventually going to lose one of those games. Like they had been playing with fire so many times. They played Providence close a couple of times. Like this UConn team has been playing, down to their level of competition a lot in Big East play. It kind of felt inevitable that they were eventually going to drop one. They give up 90 plus points to a Creighton team that had been not exaggerating, one of the worst teams in the Big East over the past like 3 or 4 weeks. Like they were playing like one of the worst teams in the conference. I know that they're in the middle of the pack of the conference, but then that team goes and loses by 30 to St. John's a couple of days later. So like that Creighton team was kind of in the midst of a free fall, to be honest with you. And then they go in and they just stomp UConn. Again, there's plenty of reasons for that. And we know that this team is really, really good and they could completely turn it around. They just had a nice win at Villanova, so they can turn it around for sure. But yeah, it kind of feels like something's been off with them, especially on the defensive end. They don't seem like they have that intensity that we're used to seeing from UConn teams, down the stretch in these games. So we'll see how they're able to finish Big East play and going into the NCAA tournament, maybe with some momentum.
Yeah, I mean, looking at like by them right now, obviously, with like where they are here, and considering how hard they play, like you wonder if the Big East keeps trending down like it's been here, you wonder if like Dan Hurley goes to the Big East next year and says, "Hey, I want a bye week in February so I can schedule a non-conference game against somebody good to get our competitive juices back up." So I do feel like you're right. I think they are kind of like running into a league where basically half the league is 500 or slightly under
Yeah.
500, and it's like they're just like kind of rolling out the basketballs, hoping they can just like show up and win. So.
Yeah, yeah, and this UConn team. I mean, listen, games against Villanova, games against St. John's, even a game against Seton Hall, Providence. Like it's easier to get up for those games, but when you're players on this UConn team that have not only played in Final Fours and national titles, like Alex Caravan, but this UConn team a couple of months ago, they were playing Illinois, they were playing Florida, they were playing BYU, Arizona. Like those are easy games to get up for. It's not as easy to get up for a Wednesday night game on the road against Xavier, or Butler, like at home, like these, even Creighton at home, like it's all only human nature. I know that the players are never going to admit that. I know Hurley would never want to hear that, but it's kind of human nature. So it would probably behoove them to maybe get a bigger game in there if the Big East keeps trending downward like it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, they have 11 teams. Somebody's off every cycle, every game
Yep.
day. So, like,
Yeah.
all you have to do is say, okay, like, give us a weekend off in February. We'll call somebody up. And, like, if we had this, game against, like, Illinois, for example, okay, Illinois, let's play in February at, like, some neutral site in the middle of the country.
Yeah, and they actually do have a week off coming up actually in the first week of March. So yeah, in the future, maybe that's something that the Big East could accommodate, for their top teams. But yeah, definitely wouldn't surprise me to see UConn try to ask that.
Yeah, let's go to your team here, St. John's. Is obviously a little rough in the non-conference play. They did lose some good teams like Alabama and Iowa State, Auburn, which is probably Auburn's best win at this point
Hmm.
outside of the SEC. And then, like, I feel like with them, like we were talking, I think after they lost to Kentucky in Atlanta, like in terms of like okay, like this team is in trouble because they don't have a point guard. But
Mhm.
credit Patino for like the move to put Dylan Mitchell in the starting lineup really
Mhm.
changed the season for them.
Yeah, it has. And, I'll never criticize Rick Pitino again because this team looked, I mean, night and day from how they looked in the non-conference when they were 7-4, they were 9-5 after just a brutal home loss to Providence when they blew a 13-point lead. But yeah, since then they haven't lost and they've been playing just some really good basketball. They've been closing out games. And they've been doing it really, like you said, without a point guard. Mitchell's kind of been that point forward. Dylan Darling has just been a total revelation for them, closing games out with some huge shots, with some heads up plays. So they've been able to do it really with kind of not the best roster construction for sure, but it's been night and day for them. They are lacking those really high quality non-conference wins, which is going to hurt them come Selection Sunday. No question about it. Like their ceiling is probably a 4 seed unless the unlikely scenario where they just keep running the table and win the rest of their regular season games and the Big East tournament. Maybe they get a chance at the 3, but their ceiling's probably a 4 at this point. But we were talking about this team as possibly going to be on the bubble, like in early January with, after losing that Providence game. The fact that they've gotten to where they are now really just speaks to the incredible coaching of Rick Pitino, and he's done he's done wonders with this team, and they're playing their best basketball in February, like his two previous St. John's teams have done. So we'll see how they finish the regular season. We'll see how they finish in the Big East tournament. But yeah, just an incredible turnaround from them because like Florida, they were up there for one of the most disappointing teams in the country. As we turn the page to 2026. And now, from preseason number 5, they were unranked. They weren't even getting votes in the AP poll to now, being right around back in the top 15 in contention for a top 4 protected seed, speaks to the coaching job of Patino.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And I think they've won 13 in a row heading into
Yep.
their next game here, which is at UConn on Wednesday. And I just want to ask the Big East why this game ended up on a Wednesday night on Peacock.
It's incredible. I mean, this has been scheduling that we have been critical of since this Big East schedule came out back in like early October, I think late September. The fact that not everyone in the country is going to see this game. First of all, it should be like their first matchup was on a Friday night. This game should be a Friday night or a Saturday or a Sunday. Like to not have this game on a weekend, one is crazy, and two to have it on Peacock where you know half the country doesn't even know how to get Peacock. Uh, it's bad scheduling by the Big East for sure because you knew that these were your two best teams. If this was, if UConn was, preseason top 5, but St. John's was unranked in the preseason and they kind of came out of nowhere and were this awesome team, like you could excuse it, but like you knew these were two teams that were preseason top 5. So to have them playing scheduled to play this game makes it even more crazy.
Yeah, and like they are on Big Fox on Saturday night against Villanova too. So like that's like they had a Big Fox spot for St. John's. I get not wanting to give both of those games to Big Fox, but like I think like it says here, there's also NBCSN also has that game, so like
Mhm.
there's at least a cable option. But like you would want this on a weekend.
Exactly. Yeah, you want it on a weekend and you want it on broadcast television for sure, for sure. So not doing that is just it's not good by the Big East.
If it's noon on Fox, like that's better than like being on a Wednesday night, like on two like a cable or a streamer.
Exactly. Yeah, and it will be the focus of Wednesday night for sure. Like that'll be the biggest game, but having it on streaming is, takes a lot of the luster out of it in terms of its national appeal.
Yeah, let's also touch on Seton Hall real quick here because the Big East has basically three
Hmm.
tournament locks with those two teams mentioned, Villanova here. Seton Hall, like what happened with them is insane because this team was 14-2 at one point,
Hmm.
basically. They
Hmm.
have the win. Oh, they beat NC State and Maui, which
Yeah.
is a very impressive result for them. The problem is like once they got to the Big East, they really fell off a cliff because they lose 4 in a row at one point. They
Hmm.
lose to Creighton. They get swept by DePaul, which is not something you want to
Hmm.
be saying in 2026. So
Hmm.
it's amazing that like a year that started with them actually cracking the poll at some point, like
Hmm.
it's now them basically needing to run the table, get the auto bid.
Yeah, yeah, they were, I think, if not the biggest, one of the biggest surprises of non-conference play, and then heading into the first couple of weeks of January, kind of a victim of maybe scheduling like a team that didn't think that they were going to be in the NCAA tournament picture. They didn't really have a whole lot of great opportunities in their non-conference. They did play in Maui, but outside of that, there wasn't really a ton of opportunities for them to pick up these great non-conference wins. So they were going to need to do some work in the Big East regardless. And like you said, it's been too inconsistent for them. Getting swept by DePaul just can't happen. I know DePaul is actually a lot better this year than they've been in the past. But in a Big East where it's hard to pick up signature wins, they blow a big lead. I think they were up 16 on St. John's in the Garden. They blow that game. They lose a close game at home against UConn. They do have opportunities still. They play UConn. They play St. John's at home, so they have some chances. But they were swept by Villanova as well. Looks like they're probably going to come up a little bit short for the NCAA tournament. For a team that, won, I think, 2 games in the Big East last year, and a team that, really had no expectations going into the year. It's still an incredible coaching job by Shaheen Holloway. They just won a game on Saturday where they didn't make a 3-point shot. They beat Georgetown still. So like he's a great coach and he's got them on the right track. And if they can just get him the players, that team is going to be a problem because he is a awesome coach. But definitely a letdown considering that they were in the top 25, at some points in 2026, and yet they're not really don't have a whole lot of at-large hopes at this point.
Yeah, I look at them. I see loss at home to Butler by 11,
Hmm.
loss at DePaul by 7, lose at home to DePaul by 12. Those 3 games, I think you can't have all 3 of those and be a legit at-large entry.
Exactly, and especially when you're lacking those high-end wins to kind of balance that out. You needed some more wins in the non-conference, or you needed to close out a game against UConn or St. John's. You couldn't do that when you have those kind of that multitude of rough losses as well as no real marquee wins. That's where, as a bubble team, it kind of kills all your chances at an at-large bid.
Yeah, right now their resume is basically a lot of wins. We beat NC State and Maui.
Yeah, that's really their one thing that they're holding on to right now is that. But again, they have some opportunities coming up here. They have the Big East tournament, so we'll see how they close out the season.
And they may really regret that 2-point loss to USC at Maui, too. That one could come back to bite them very hard.
That that too. Yeah, yeah. That would have been a really nice end to the trip for them if they could have taken down USC. But yeah, that's the life of a bubble team, right?
Yep.
One shot here or there could have changed everything.
Yeah. And let's go to the one. We have an undefeated team in February, which is not very common here. Miami of Ohio is 27-0. They are in the polls down in the 20s. They are the most controversial lightning rod situation in the entire college basketball world right now because their schedule is atrocious. They
Hmm.
played 3 games against teams outside of D1, which is not ideal. They have one game. It's a quad 2 game, which is a win over Akron, which is the only other good team in that league.
Hmm.
I give them credit. They won a lot of games. There is a lot of debate right now about like if they don't get the job done, if they don't win the MAC, the MAC, not the MAAC around here.
Hmm.
If they don't get the job done, they should be left out. Which to me, I push back on that because let's say they do finish the regular season 31-0. Like, I don't care who you play, winning 31 straight college basketball games is not easy. I think you should be at least be sending them to Dayton if they are getting there.
For sure. And I think that's a good compromise, send them to Dayton if they do take a loss in the conference tournament. Yeah, but it's just fascinating and it's one of the things that make this sport so great, right? Like if you win, 25, 30 games in a row, you're obviously a good team, but against that competition where I think they played the 360th ranked non-conference schedule, like you mentioned, it was just, really had no non-conference games and then are playing in the MAC where, there's not really any real competition either. It leaves open this debate of if they deserve to be in or not. For everyone's sake, I hope that they either just win the MAC, go undefeated and win the MAC and get in with the auto bid, or they drop a game in the regular season and they drop a game in the MAC tournament, and then we know that they're not. And like I would really like just some finality here, and not have to debate them on Selection Sunday. But something tells me we're going to be debating them. But it is like I said, one of the fascinating things about college basketball is like we just don't know how real this team is, right? Like they're undefeated, so we know that they're a good team, right? But they just haven't beaten anyone worth anything right now. like this team could go into March, and get an 11 seed, and win the MAC and be undefeated and get an 11 seed and play a 6 seed and lose by 20 in the first round. And it was like, well, they were really good for what they were, but they weren't on the level of a real contender. Or who knows? Like this team could be a second weekend team. It's the beauty of college basketball is that like you just don't know. Like there's, not everyone is playing everyone. It's not like professional sports where you play every team once or twice. There's, or you play other leagues. Like this is just, for the final basically 2 months of the year, you're playing only your conference, and it's just there's no way to really tell. You could say that about a lot of teams. There's no way to tell really how good a lot of these teams are because a lot of the results that we're going off are from November and December. So it's just a fascinating case. If they deserve to get in, and then if they do get in, like what do you make of them? Like it's anyone's guess how good this team actually is.
Yeah, I'm looking up some numbers for them on KenPom, which is like a great like service to like sort of track these teams in terms of like metrics wise. Like they are 84th in KenPom for reference here. They do have the three, you're right, of this non-conference rating schedule net rating of 360, 295 overall. Three of their final four regular season games are on the road, which
Hmm.
is not ideal because I'm looking at their resume at the slate right now. They go this week to Eastern Michigan and Western Michigan. So they are in the state of Michigan. Both those teams are towards the bottom of the MAC. They host Toledo, which is, about 500. And then they go to Ohio, which is 15 and 13, so at 9
Hmm.
and 6 in the league. So the one thing I'll watch here at them is like if they do run into Akron again, Akron was the team most people thought would be the
Yeah.
team preseason. They won a game in the tournament last year, I think.
Hmm.
They are
Hmm.
68th in Ken Palm. The teams met once it like in Miami, they won by three at home. So
Hmm.
it would not shock me if we got a title game of these two at Akron wins.
Yeah, yeah, and I almost wonder for Miami of Ohio. Maybe this is a controversial take, but like going into that conference tournament undefeated, there is just so much pressure at that point to not take a loss and to leave it up to the committee. I almost wonder if it would like behoove them to just lose a game and not throw a game, but if it wouldn't be necessarily a terrible thing for them in the regular season to lose a game, because then like it's clear then going in like that you need to win this conference tournament. There is no doubt about it. I wonder if it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if it took a. I mean, now the pressure is still there to win your conference tournament, but not going in with the undefeated record and needing to win the conference tournament. I just wonder, but it's going to be a fascinating story, however it plays out.
Yeah, I'm looking at that format right now for the MAC tournament. It's only 8 of the 13 teams are in, so they dropped the bottom five, and
Okay.
it's 3 straight days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Cleveland. So that's a tough road for Miami, Ohio.
Hmm. I wonder, like, I think the WCC does it right, where the top couple seeds get buys like almost to the semis, I think.
Yeah, the Gonzaga roll.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I wonder, if more, if this happens where Miami of Ohio, let's say, runs a table, loses in the conference tournament, and then doesn't get in. Like if we're going to see, more conferences go to like even more radical ways of doing their conference tournaments to ensure that their best team gets in.
Yeah, that's for sure. Two other things I want to touch on here. Like number one, the saga of Charles Bediako, because this was a thing where he's a former Alabama star, goes to the pros, and not get drafted in the G League for a few years, sues to get access to college again because he says, okay, like I'm being denied opportunities to make money now. The NIL's a
Mhm.
thing, which I didn't not just when I was in college. He gets the injunction. He plays a few games for Alabama, and then another court hearing basically said, no, you can't do this. You're not eligible anymore. So this, I think, took way too long for what should have been a common sense thing. And I know the judge the first time around was like a big Alabama guy, Alabama graduate like, who
Mhm.
has ties to the program, but we could not be doing this where we have guys who are playing professionally. Here was the G League. James Najee with Baylor is a slippery slope, even though he never signed a contract. But like,
Yeah. Hmm.
I think to me, this should be, and this is something that probably not going to get resolved unless you have a CBA of some sort.
Hmm.
Like, once you declare for the draft, you're done. I think that's the easiest way. And then this is should not be that complicated.
Yeah, probably the dumbest story that we've seen with college basketball in a long time, which is really saying something because we've had some rough ones over the years. So we were rooting for the NCAA in court, like which you almost never see happen. That's how silly this entire story was. Like you said, the judge being an Alabama graduate, I think he was a booster for Alabama. Like, what are we doing here? This is a sport, college athletics as a whole, but especially college football and college basketball. there's enough just like lawlessness going around, with NIL, with the portal, with, just no one knowing the rules, no one having any rules. This is one that is like cut and dry, like should be very, very obvious that once you forego your college eligibility, you're done. Like there's no turning back on that. It's a decision that you made. You're done once you've, given that up and declared for the NBA draft or decided to play professionally. Like it's over. If it doesn't work out for you in the NBA or the G League or overseas, like too bad you gave up your college eligibility. This has been something that, as long as we've been watching college sports, has been a pretty known rule. So the fact that we were actually like arguing about this and that, this kid was actually playing back to college basketball was absolutely just so silly in my opinion. And I'm glad that, common sense, like you said, did prevail in this one, and we got the right decision eventually. Because this is just, if he was able to play out the rest of the year, it would have just set a completely wrong precedent going forward. We need some rules, and when in a sport where there's just no rules going around right now, that was one that I didn't think we needed to challenge, but apparently we did.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on. The other thing I'll throw out here. I think there is a compromise here where, like, if you go to the draft and you don't get drafted, and you can then do not sign a contract, and like you have a window, say, okay, let's say you go to June, you don't get drafted, I will be able to give you till the start of the fall semester. Say, okay,
Hmm.
like if you want to come back, you can come back, but
Hmm.
like I think once that window passes, that's it. You're going pro somewhere. And I think this is more case of Charles Bediako didn't want to go to Europe. He wanted to just get paid to stay stateside.
Exactly. Yeah. And that would be fine too. If a kid, realizes he made the wrong decision and give them a chance to go back. Absolutely. But yeah, guys doing this and then, a couple of years later going, hey, I want to come back. Can't be having that. So yeah, limit it to a certain amount of time frame and then and then do it. But no, don't give them years to make that decision.
Yeah, that's for sure. Here. Last but not least, the bubble, which is terrible again.
What else is new?
Yeah, so we're gonna play our favorite game here. Pick your favorite bubble team. So
Uh, do I have to pick one?
yes, you have to pick one. We have five sets of teams here. So
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen. This is from the website bracketologist.com. It's a great tool to blindly compare resumes. So I'll give you four teams at a time. You're going to pick which is your favorite. So
Okay.
we'll go to the YouTube version. Mike Phillips on YouTube. You can watch this screen share here. So our first set of teams, Team A, like Team A, B, C, and D. Some highlights. Team A is a net of 26. They are 24-4 overall. They are 1-3 in quad one, 6-1 in quad two. Team B, net of 37, Ken Pound 36. They have the 39th ranked strength of schedule. Their non-conference 152. They are 4-4 away from home, 0-8 in quad one, 7-1 in quad two. Team three, 43 in the net, 20-6 overall. They are 2-4 in quad one. They have a quad three loss. Team four has a net of 60. They have played the 67th ranked schedule is the second on the list here. 18-9 overall, 14-2 at home, 4-7 away from their building, 4-5 in quad one. So of these resumes, which one sticks out to you?
I think I would go with Team A in this scenario. The best net, highest Ken Palm as well. You look at the wins above bubble, which is a metric that the NCAA, the selection committee loves. Having not the obviously the easiest strength of schedule on there, but they've got, some wins away from home as well. They've got a decent quad one record as well. Team B, I'm pretty sure I know who they are. They've played that tough schedule, but they haven't won any big games, so I can't give them that. So I would go with Team A in this scenario.
Yeah, that record was not updated after today's results. So to reset for the audience here, Team A is St. Mary's. Team B is Ohio State, which is now 0-9 in quad one after they lost to Michigan State today.
Yep.
Team C is New Mexico, and Team D is Missouri.
Yeah, and I like, St. Mary's, playing in the WCC, not a total joke conference, has played some bigger games as well. Yeah, but a team like Ohio State, I mean, how many opportunities are you going to get for that big win in the non-conference? You saw them today against Michigan State. You just there's a limit to how many times you can come up short to not have any quad one wins at this point. I think it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, but you look at Ohio State though; they have the really good schedule. I feel like they're this year's North Carolina. If they just get one in that column, it's not a zero, they'll be in.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. If they can get one, watch out. But yeah, it's been a struggle for them to get any right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, and they have four opportunities basically to get one. They can win at Iowa. They can beat Purdue at home, which is a couple teams have picked off Purdue and when Purdue's got on the
Hmm.
road. They
Hmm.
can win a game in the Big Ten tournament, which gives you a neutral
Hmm.
court win.
Hmm.
Or they can hope Wisconsin gets hot. Wisconsin in Columbus comes a quad one win.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when you're playing in a conference like the Big Ten, where almost every road game is going to end up being a quad one game, like the opportunities are there, which makes it even more shocking that they haven't gotten one, but there are still opportunities to be had for them.
I watched that game very closely today. Like that team is capable of being like in the against everybody, but like you want to see them do it once. And like if they get to 20 wins, they have a quad one win, and they're above 500 in this year's Big Ten, they're getting in.
For sure, yeah. And I saw someone say today, like Bruce Thornton is just an awesome college player. He should be be able to play in an NCAA tournament. So you hope that a guy like that gets into the tournament, but they gotta do something.
Bruce Thorn had 32 points today against the Spartans.
Mhm. Yeah, he was incredible. He had a great game, and he's an awesome player. I wanted him at St. John's in the offseason. He's a really really great player. It would be a shame if he's not able to make it into the NCAA tournament.
All right, let's go to Group B, the second group of four teams here. So, Team A's 32nd net, number one strength of schedule in the country, 13th non-conference strength of schedule, 15 and 12 record. They are 5 and 10 in quad one, 2 and 2 in quad two. Team B, net of 40, Ken Palm 35. They are a 91 strength of schedule. They are 1 and 4 in quad one, 7 and 1 in quad two. Team C, 47th net. Trying to look at some other interesting numbers here. They are 3 and 5 away from home. They are 4 and 7 in quad one. They have a quad three loss as well. Team D are the fourth group here. They are the worst metrics wise. Not bad on conference schedule. They're 18 and 10. They are 2 and 8 in quad one, 6 and 2 in quad two. What team are you taking out of this group?
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is another one where I think I know who one of these teams is at least. But I will go with I'll take Team C in this one. Got a couple of quad one wins, I should say. Got the 17. Didn't play a great out of conference schedule, but has a decent strength of schedule. So I'll go with Team C.
All right, so Team A is Auburn, which
Yeah,
has the
I figured.
which is one of these teams where it's like they're gonna be like we play everybody, but they didn't beat most of them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Team B is Santa Clara, which is one of the hot bubble teams this year,
Hmm.
and like they have a good their quad wins against St. Mary's.
Hmm.
TCU, your team you picked, is Team Three. They have some good results, and Team Four is Virginia Tech.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, TCU they do have some big who they beat Iowa State a couple of weeks ago, I believe. So they
Yep.
have they have the high level wins for sure. But Auburn, like you said, has just played a monster of a non-conference schedule. Really didn't win any of those games outside of beating my team, St. John's, and then even in SEC play, just has struggled to really get those marquee wins. They did have one a couple days ago, but like they've struggled to get those wins, and there comes a limit of like how many losses can you take before that strength of schedule and those quad one wins don't matter anymore. And they're right up against it with 13.
It was Ohio
Or
State. That was Ohio State last year, was they was ranked too many losses.
yeah, exactly. Like there comes a point where just the volume of losses gets too high, and Auburn is right up against that.
Yeah, I would take Santa Clara out of this group because like I want to see them get a shot at somebody. I've watched Santa Clara play a couple times. They're pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, they're a talented team for sure.
All right. Group three. So we'll go ahead back to the bracketologist.com. They're doing a great job with this tool. So Team A, B, C, and D. Team A is the highest net at 33. Team B, there's a lot of these numbers are pretty similar schedule wise. 302 out of conference strength of schedule for Team A, 47 out of conference strength of schedule for Team B. The records are all pretty similar. The quad one wins. Team A is 5 and 6. Team B is 1 and 5. Team C is 1 and 3. Team D is 4 and 5. Team C has two quads, three losses, and Team B
Mm,
has one. So, of
mm,
this group, what are you feeling?
mm. That I want to take A, but that out of conference strength of schedule is so bad that I almost can't.
Not as bad as
Um,
these.
yeah, so I'll take B in this one.
All right, so you chose San Diego State, which is under a
Okay.
lot of pressure right now because they've lost two back-to-back games in a down Mountain West. Team A is Georgia. Team C is our friends from the Big East, Seton Hall, and Team D is Cal.
Mm, mhm. I would have loved to pick Seton Hall, but I can't justify getting them in right now. But yeah, Georgia, another team that like maybe went into the year didn't necessarily have these absolute NCAA tournament expectations. And like when you schedule that poor in the non-conference, like it could come back to hurt you. No matter what conference you play in. If you play in the SEC, it doesn't matter. Like that's the thing that stands out there for me. So I wonder how much that's going to hurt them, even with the quality. Like they have five quad one wins. They're almost 500 in quad one, but like that's going to hurt you.
Yeah, I think the thing that people don't realize here, the San Diego State resume is very similar to the Ohio State resume. Ohio State feels like much safer than San Diego State does.
Yeah, which is very interesting.
All right, I got two more of these if you have time. So,
Yeah, let's do it.
all right, so group four, we'll give some highlights here. This is a little more wide variance here. Team A is net of 42, B 51, C 58, D 75. All the strength of schedules are pretty poor out of the
Hmm.
league. All of the 174 or higher. There's some good Ken Palm numbers. BPI is very high in Team A, just 28th overall. So some records here. They're all pretty similar in terms of win percentage. We have some 4-5 in quad one for Group Team A, 2-9 for B, 2-6 for C, 3-4 for D. D has also a two quad three loss and a quad four loss.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you feeling?
Yeah, yeah. D is out. I'll go with. Ooh, I'll go against what I was just saying, and I'll take Team A, even with that horrible out of conference strength of schedule, just because they've all played no one in the out of conference.
All right, so Troy is taking Texas A&M
Okay, okay.
out of the
I, I
SEC.
I like Texas A&M. I actually thought they should have. I mean, what they start 6-1, 7-1 in the
Yeah.
SEC. They obviously have fallen off recently, but I like them a lot. I think that Bucky's doing a good job there, and they're on the right track. So I like that team.
Team B is Cincinnati, which just got the big win in Kansas. They won four in a row as West Mills trying to get us up off the hot seat. Team C is USC, which is fading fast.
Big chance for them. I believe they play UCLA this week.
Yep, and Team D is Grand Canyon, which is trying to make a run in the late in the Mountain West.
Yeah, that quad was a two quad three and a quad four loss is just it's too much to get over.
They do have three quad one wins though.
Yeah, yeah, which does help, of course.
For
But
a mid
yeah,
major,
those.
that's three more than Ohio State has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for a team that does not play in a power conference, that is impressive. You're right.
All right, that's why I put them on the list. So
hmm hmm
last one, we will go to Group E. This is my favorite one that I made. So
Okay.
A the Nets 41, 45, 64, 72. We have some strength of schedules, all pretty solid, all in the top 100. Knockout schedule is very bad for B and for C and D. B has a very strong strength of schedule out of the league. Some records here: 18-9, 21-7, 16-11, 16-11. We have some great results here: 3-7 quad one for Team A, 1-5 for B, 4-7 for C, and 4-6 for D. D has three quad three losses. C has one quad three loss. What are you picking out of this group?
I think I'm going to take B in this one. I like the non-conference strength schedule. They do only have the one quad one win, but they are 6-3 away from home, which is what I like to see, winning those road games. So I'm going to take Team B.
All right, so Troy has picked VCU.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, Team A is UCLA, which just got a huge win over Illinois at home.
hmm
Team C is
hmm
West Virginia, and Team D is my favorite Bubble team of this year, Stanford, which is some of the craziest wins and losses this year.
Stanford is just the perfect bubble team, right? Like they've won some games that you can't even believe how they won that game when they beat North Carolina, and then they just have some horrific losses that you can't believe. Yeah, they are the perfect bubble team right now. But UCLA, they're I think they're going to get in for sure, especially after their win over Illinois. They were a team that I thought going into the year had second weekend potential with the portal haul that they had. So it's been an up and down year for them. They were in a bit of a free fall, got a huge win against Illinois, but they're making a lot of headlines off the court as well, which is not great.
Yeah, so to summarize here, my like the wrap up here with the Stanford point, which is they are 60-11, they're 5-9 in the ACC, which is still not great.
hmm
They have wins this year. They beat Louisville by 4 at
hmm
home. They beat North Carolina at home by 5. Prior to last week, they were the only team in the country to beat St. Louis. They have also lost games at home to Seattle University.
hmm
They lost to UNLV. They lost to Notre Dame.
Mhm.
They lost at Florida State.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's the Stanford experience this year.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like a perfect bubble team, and being in the ACC as well as a West Coast team. I wonder if we're going to see this a lot with like Stanford and Cal, winning some games that they maybe shouldn't win because teams have to make that long trip all the way out to them, and then losing some games that they shouldn't lose because they're making that trip, like you said, to a team like Florida State. I wonder if we're going to see that, really across the country with these crazy geographical conferences now. I wonder if that's going to be a trend that we see in years future.
They got a couple opportunities here down the stretch to get some stuff here. They have SMU coming in. They go to NC State to end the regular season. They have the ACC tournament. Like, I would not be surprised if Stanford is, on the page on Selection Sunday.
I would like to see that as well. They have a really awesome freshman as well, who I would love to see play in the NCAA tournament. I believe he torched North Carolina when they played them. So yeah, let's hopefully Stanford gets in. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, Ibuka Corey,
Corey,
that kid
yeah.
got
Mhm.
36 points against UNC.
Yeah, yeah, he's awesome. So I would love to see him playing in March along with these other amazing freshmen that we have this season.
Absolutely, Troy. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you on social media. How can I do that?
Yeah, of course. You can follow me on Twitter at Troy Mauriello, Mauriello. Big St. John's tweeter. So if you're a St. John's fan, definitely check it out.